Hey, welcome back. So last we left off here with our blinking, and I've made some minor updates to how the control rig works. And you can see here, we can't zoom in. I don't have a way to do that in the game right now, but we have our eyes blinking, our brows subtly shifting, and our eyelashes, our top and bottom eyelashes, moving around too. That's a new update from where we last left off. So let's check that out in the control rig. If we look here, we see the character, almost her entire set of eyes is moving around, right? So like I said, we've got the brows, we've got the eyelashes, top and bottom, now participating. So where we last left it was this, where we just have the eyes blinking. You can see there that it looks a little bit cartoony, that's fine. But I wanted to test getting the eyelashes and the brows moving around too. So let's see what we changed to make that update. So we go into our, first of all, I want to say that I was able to rename our iBlink functions without crashing. That's good. Let's save. So first, I made a function for our random floats. So we're setting our random speed that controls how quickly we're going to iBlink, and our random modulo, which controls how quickly we get back to 1 and loop back around so that we can blink again. So we've got our values here, and I adjusted those values, but I think I'm going to like 1 here on the speed, just to make that a little bit faster. And again, if we watch these values, you see that the result, that's fun, there it is. Every 5 seconds, this value and this value will randomly update, and then they'll hold it for another 5. At least that's why I'm reading the duration as seconds. Okay, so let's stop watching those. Then we're coming into our iBlink function. You can see here we have the item being piped in. That way, instead of just the type and name as before, because when it was a name, I had to type it in manually. But here, when we pump in the item, we get an actual drop down of the bones that we have. So that's a more accurate list, and you're less likely to make a human error. We have the scale index, which is new, and we have a translation Z multiplier, which is new. And you can see that this function is being used 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, plus 8, that's another 16, plus 8, that's 24 times. Oops, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, that's 6, that's 18, plus 2, that's 20. See, if you've watched any of my other videos, you'll know that I'm bad at math. Okay, so what are we doing with our scale index and our translation Z multiplier? Just quickly, let's come back to that. Let's table that for a second. Let's come back to our random floats. We see that we're setting our randoms here, random speed, random modulo, and we have our functions here that are actually animating our, let me see, our iBlink anim scale Z and our iBlink translation Z. And those are more or less the same things. So we're using our random speed here on our accumulated time, our random modulo here on our modulo, and then we have our curves. And I made those into, I wanted to use them someplace else, into variables as well. So we have our scale curve here for our actual eye blinking. Then we have our translation curve here for our eye moving up and down while we're blinking. So we are using the iBlink scale, the iBlink anim functions in our iBlink function. So if we run through this again, we're getting our entry point, we're getting our bone transform here, we're getting our item name that we piped in. So we can see it's a type and a name there. So whatever we're inputting here on the outside of this function, we're getting here on the inside of the function. So we're using our item name to get the transform, and then we're doing some cool stuff to our transform, and then we're setting we're getting our item name again, and then we're setting our bone locations. So what's the cool stuff that we're doing? So you can see that we're not doing anything to rotation. We're not doing anything to transform X or transform Y, and we're not doing anything to scale X and scale Y, and I'll show you that in a second. So those values I could just pipe into here too directly, but instead we're making a vector here that includes all three. So we're saying here, what is our translate Z doing? It's getting our item Z location, and then we're adding to that our iBlink animation that's here with this curve here. And then we're multiplying that by our value that we're inputting here on the outside of this function. So if we didn't want any translation on it, we could type 0 and it won't move around. Now you can see that nothing moves. But if we want to change that to something higher, we can hit 5. And because I decoupled this value, then everything moves with a value of 5. If I put that back in, then we'll get the values that we have on the outside. So say I wanted the left eye to move 5. Every time it blinks, we can see that her eye is moving much further down, and just her eye. That allows us to take this one animation and apply one value to it and modify how that animation works by just adjusting that one value. And that's a very cool thing as far as procedural animation goes and setting up your functions. So we go back into our function. So that's our Z multiplier. Now we have our new thing, which is our scale index. So what are we doing to scale? We're taking our scale wholly, and then we're saying, let's take the index of whatever setting here. So on the outside, we're saying index is 0 or 1. And if it's 0, it says this is a select. So if our index is 0, then we'll use this input. And then if we set our index to 1, which we did for the eyeballs, then we'll use our second input here, which is 1. So let's go out and we change this to 0 for our eye blank on our left eyeball. You can see our eyeball isn't scaling. Oops. All right, that's our translation modifier. It wasn't moving. So we set our index to 0. We see that it doesn't scale, but it still moves. And if we wanted to scale, again, we set that index back to 1. Remember, this isn't a modifier. We're just changing the input here. So what we can do now is go into our input 0, our input 1, and we'll look at our eye blink scale animation. Like I said, we're piping in our X and Y here, which we don't necessarily need to do, but we're just getting that and setting it for our vector. So we haven't changed our X and Y. And again, we're doing the same thing that we're doing with our Z translate. We're taking our random speed over our accumulated time, taking our random modulo over our modulo to reset back to 0, and then we're taking all of that and piping that into a value that drives this animation curve. And then we're setting that as our multiplier here. So this is another variable that we can use. I describe that as a place where maybe if we're in a very lit room and there's a lot of sun in our eyes, we are not doing anything there. Multiplier, then we'll have to see why this is not working. So this should work across all anims. Well, we'll just set that back to 1. I'll worry about that later. Maybe it was here. Kingdom scale 1. We're at index 1 here. I blank. That should do something. I would anticipate that it does something. But since it's a value of 1 anyway, we're not using it, I will ignore, but because I can hear myself. Let's play and see if there's any difference here. No? Okay. Back to ignoring it. So we're running this to run our animation past this to control the time at which we're playing this animation here. And then we're piping that into our z value. So then we pipe that into our select, and depending on how we've selected that, what index we've set, then that controls which input we're using, and that's going to be our scale factor. Let's get out. So that's for our left and right eyeballs. So if we disconnect that, you can see that our left and right eyeballs were as they were. But now we have our eyelashes. And this is more of a custom setup for my particular character, because if we go to the rig, we type eye, which I've already done, but let's get rid of that and put eye. We can see all these eye bones that we have there. We have our eyebrow bones. So there's 3 bones per. So if we go to bones and select it only, we can see eyebrow left, 1, 2, and 3. And then we can go to eyebrow 1, 2, and 3 for our right eyebrow. And we have our top and bottom eyelashes. So our 1, 2, and 3 for left, 1, 2, and 3 for our right. Then we have our eyeball, left and right. And again, we have our bottom eyelashes for our left, 1, 2, and 3. And then our right, 1, 2, and 3. So because we have those set up, we can now control what they do. So let's turn the bones off. Well, let's turn them on for now. So let's leave them on. And if we hook this back up, let's just hook one of these up. Disconnect here, go to here. You can see how, what is this, our left eyelash. See how our left eyelash is now moving. And what we're doing here is that we've made an array of these 3 joints, eyelash top, 1, 2, and 3 for our left. So here we just say make array, if I can spell. There we are. And we can drag that over to here. We want this to be, what type of array do we want? at. I always forget how to do this. Doesn't exactly make array. Yeah, we should be able to make array for, let's say, git transform array. Aha. I think this is usually how I do it. Make array there. And that sets that up for you. And then you can start making your array. Bone lash top left. And then you would add in a new one. If you wanted to, you can come over here, shift right click, shift left click. And that's going to add that here. But you can rename it here, eyelash. What is it? Top 2 left. There it is. And again, we can add another one. Copy, shift right click, shift left click, or paste. Then we can drop this down to eyelash top left. There we are. So we would make that array for all of our left side objects. And then what we would do, so we don't have to make that array again for our right side objects, we would pull this out for when we need it and say replace items. And we're just looking for, this is why naming conventions are important. Here we're just going to take our underscore left, replace it with underscore right. And then we can pipe that into a new at that gives us our index. So which index are we at in our array? So that's how I look at that. So we take our 3 index spots, so 0, 1, and 2 for left, and 0, 1, and 2 for right. Just delete these. And then we just pipe them into those functions. So if we disconnect this one and add in our second eye, now we can see how they're both moving for those top eyelashes. And then we're going to add in our third eyelash here. Connect that one. Now we have our third eyelash going. And you can change your values here. So if we wanted to scale it, we would change the index that we're using. And not sure if you can see, but we are scaling now. So it kind of blinks in and out. And you can see how I'm typing in different translation Z multipliers values here. So we can say 5 here. And you can, let's change the index so we don't lose it. We're not scaling this. So you can see how this first joint here is moving much further because we have our index at 0. That's this one right here, eyelash top left. And we're making it a multiplier of 5. So we don't even have to go into our functions anymore. We can just know that once we pipe it in, it's going to get that information. What do you want to do with that information? That's where our values outside of here make a lot of sense for me. So we type 5, 5, and 5. And now it's just moving wholesale all together. But if we wanted to, say, offset them a little bit, which is what I was doing before, we had a 1, and what do we have? 1.5 and 2. So 1.5 and a 2. So the outside is moving more than the inside. So if we hide this, hide these bones. So let's get the other eyebrows in there. The same thing. If we find something that we like on the left, we can just copy those, duplicate them for the right versions. So we hook that up. Now we have the right eyelashes top working. So we do the same thing for the bottom eyelashes, but on this one, we're going to set our scale to a negative value because we don't want the bottom eyelashes going up. Let's set these to 1 so that they go up with the animation, no multiplier. Whoops. Now you can see on the left side here, our, excuse me, I misspoke earlier. I said it was going up. We don't want our eyelashes to go down. We want to feel like this is helping, our bottom lid is helping push our eyeball up and go along with that blink. But if we wanted to test it, we could say, let's give it a 0.35. And we're going to copy that value and paste and paste. That's not bad either. It all depends on what we want here. But let's look for a negative value here. There it is. It's not pushing as much, just a little subtler. Let's go with a negative 0.5 here. Copy, paste, and paste. See which one we like more. I like the 0.35. Let's paste that. So if we disconnect this one, you can see how the eyebrows stop moving. So we've done the same thing here, but just with the eyebrows. So we're just duplicating all this and figuring out how much we want the eyebrows to move. And here you can see I've selected a 0.5, 0.35, and 0.15. So you can also test here just to see what these are doing. So say 5. See how the inner eyebrow, that's this one here. Let's show these bones again. It's moving a lot now. If we want them all to move a lot, or say in a negative way, 0.5, and negative 5, or let's say 10 here and move it down, it kind of retains a shape, which is interesting. So one goes up and one goes down, instead of them both going in the same direction. Eyebrows. The skin weighting is not correct here. So we're not seeing what we think we're seeing. Oh, okay. I think the skin weighting is the way it probably should be, but it's a soft skin weight. So if I save this and open up my SKM, I have the cape hidden. So it's somewhere in here. LOD something. LOD sections. If I remember. But the cape's here and it's disabled. So you just right click and enable it. And then the cape's back. So we're going to come to our skin weights over here. So this should be there by default, but skin. So skeletal mesh editing tools in your plugins. If you don't have that selected, go ahead and select that. So let's see here. If we go to edit weights, we want our mesh here. Not sure why I'm not seeing bone names here. Skeleton tree, there it is. Let's see. Eyebrow left 3. That's that one. Eyebrow left 3. There we are. And we can see that it is soft weighted. But let's see how eyebrow left 2 is selecting it. So what I can do is select this mesh, we want to flood and isolate that selection so that we're just looking at oh, oops, there we are. Bones, want to flood and isolate. There we are. I don't know why. There we are. That's better. Okay. Whoops. Edit. Preferences. Orbit. No, it's not orbiting around the selection the way I would think it would. Okay. That is no bueno. Even if I do that. Anyway, let's try to get through this. So we have our O3 here. Select our weights there. See what values we have. Let's drop O2 down quite a bit. Bring O3 has more weight in our skin weights there. So we're going to show full mesh. We're going to select this selection, and then we're going to mirror our positive X to our negative X. So we're going to select our eyebrow O3 right. We're going to mirror, and you can see how that updated there. It's now brighter. Then we're going to accept. We're going to come back to our control rig. We can see how it's not affecting the, that third bone isn't affecting the, I'm sorry, the second bone here, eyebrow O2 left, isn't affecting the skin weights as much on the right side, on that O3 right. All right, so let's get some values in here that we like. I'm going to say 0.5. We want it all to kind of come down. We're not going up here. We're going to say 1. Then we're going to say actually these values here, 0.5, 0.35, 0.15, 0.5, 0.15. But if we wanted to now, we would see 5 here. And that's going to pull that side down a lot stronger because we affected the skin weights there. We go back to 0.15, just make it subtle. So the inner brow is moving more and the outer brow is moving less. And we're doing that for both the right and the left side. With our index for our eyebrow left 1, 2, and 3, we're replacing our suffix L with suffix _R and getting our index positions and setting that across our function. All right, that is the setup. We compile, save, and come back in here. And we look at our eye blinks. Randomly blinking. All right, thanks for sticking through that procedural eye blink setup. And happy animating out there and happy control rigging.